How's it going, everybody? Hey, today we're going to do a irrigation blowout, sprinkler blowout. Show you how that's done, and show you the steps to make sure it's not broken next spring when you turn it back on. Here we have a backflow or a pressure vacuum breaker. A lot of people just call them backflows. Generally, what people do is they'll hook up a compressor to the system, and you got to do it the right way, else you could mess things up. It's pretty rare, but based on pressure and other things, you could do some damage. So generally there's a little port on here, and they'll just put on a little compressor end, kind of like this. And this one's a little bit different. You still could get it on here, and that'd be okay. This one's a little nicer, where the irrigation side, meaning all the piping after the backflow, there's a flow directional here. So source, right, from the house through the backflow, over and down. That goes the irrigation box. This one's got a nice little T and a stub out for, you know, draining and blowing out and all that. So it's pretty nice setup. You don't see this typically, but if you have this, it is nice to have. So anyways, you got to turn off the interior water, and let's go ahead and do that now. Okay, so we're down here in the basement, and we have a ball valve with a drain, and that's very typical for out here in Colorado and cold areas where you have to winterize your irrigation system. So typically when it's in season, you'd have this open, and that would be flowing water, and it's just isolated just for the irrigation system. So you go ahead and shut this off, and then what I do is I just throw a bucket over there and open this up and let that drain out. Now it's gonna spray out, and might get you in the face, might spray on the wall, whatever. It's a little bit of water, it's not a huge deal. So anyway, so that's your first step, is to turn off the interior water, and then you can open up that bleeder valve, and I just take it all the way off, let it bleed out, and get all the water out of there. Next step will be opening up the backflow so you can let air in, so it's not siphoned in there. So let's go do that. Okay, so typically your backflow when it's on and in season will look like this. If it's parallel with the pipe, that means it's open. And so if it's open, you're gonna have full flow. You'll have that air come through. You can open up these little ports here. What that does is that allows air to come into the system, and say you didn't have this. This allows air to come into the system and allow all the water to drain out. Now, if you get another bleeder valve here, okay, might as well open that up too. Okay, see how much water is just sitting in there, and that's because it's negative grade. The grade's coming back to this elbow, and if I wouldn't have done that, because you don't blow out this section, if I wouldn't have done that, it would have cracked, and then we would have had to sweat on a new piece and repair that. So again, I just leave these off, and they're pretty, they're pretty small, but just throw it on top, or throw it in the valve box here, and then get an extra pack just in case. But I leave them off because that's gonna allow all the residual water to come out, because it'll sit there and drip like this for another couple minutes. So okay, from here on out, this is gonna stay closed. Okay, this closes, and that makes it so the air you're gonna force in does not go past this point, which is important. Okay, so close this all the way. This is open, and this allows air to come through and kind of circulate through and try to get some more water out. At this point, what I do is I get the compressor going, and I've already pre-pressurized it. This is important. So the tank side, it can go as high as it goes, and then normally most of them will auto shut off. This side, you don't want to go any higher than like 80 psi. If you're higher than 80 psi, you're gonna start blowing stuff up. You can start damaging pipes, valves, all that kind of stuff. Now valves are rated for, most valves are rated for 100 psi, 125 psi. Pipes can be rated for 160 psi, 125 psi. But if they aren't, and you start putting in 150 psi, that's not going to be good for your system. All right, so 140 psi in the tank, and about 50 psi in coming output. So I'm going to go ahead and connect this. Set it in. Okay, connect that, and I always connect that side in first, and then I'll connect this side. Okay, and from here on out, you're going to put air in the line. So let's say you're going to put it on here. This is your control. So you close it, connect it, open it up, and you're going to allow air to come through. These are all open. This is closed. So, okay, you're going to make sure that's on there and clicks. And as I open this up, there should be air coming out of here. Okay, now that's coming out of the top because it's not sealing because I have these open. So when I close them, that should seal all the way and get a good seal going. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and close these real quick. Get this pressurized. So as I open this up, you'll hear air and then it'll stop. So what's happening is I put it at 50 psi in the tank, but you want to go a little higher because as that's just static, as you run through, it'll be a little less. Okay. Get that 60 psi mark. 60 is plenty. Any higher than 80, it's not good. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and close that off here, because that's just letting air out. There we go. Okay, now it's sealed. Okay, so this whole thing is full of air. All right, now when I let this out, okay. Got a little bit of water coming out. Okay, that's important to get out of there. I'll close that for now. This is closed because we just blew this out. So now we got air in the line. The system is pressurized with air. And now we just go through and we just turn each valve on. Doggy. Okay, and turn it on. So that air pressure is coming through the line. And all it's going to do is just push air through the lines. So it's going to start pushing all that water out. Once all the water's out, then it'll go ahead and just be air. This zone is a drip zone, so no heads are going to pop up typically. Sometimes there are on the drip zone. But these ones are just little bubblers, little bug emitters, and you can hear them just hissing, just bubble, 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 hiss, hiss, you know, whatever. So that means it's working. You don't want to hear the how do you explain that? You don't want to hear that gushing sound, that'll sloshing, whatever, however you want to call it. You don't want to hear that. You just want to hear just a solid hiss. If it's a solid hiss, that means that it's just air and there's very little water, hopefully none. If there's a little bit in there, typically it's okay, but that's what you're looking for. So sometimes it takes 2 minutes, sometimes it takes 5 minutes, just depending on your compressor, the volume you can push out through the compressor, and then also your size of the zone. So we'll give it a couple minutes and come back and check on it. Okay, so I had to turn on the compressor because it's obviously using the air and it's not recharging the tank. So pushing air through the compressor is building versus staying steady, which is a good thing. So if you didn't hear that, the tank is building pressure and the output is staying steady, which means that I'm adding more volume than I'm pushing out, and it's probably because it's a drip line and it's a really small zone. So we're good. We'll turn it off and just listen for the hiss. I'd say that's pretty good. So we're back at the valve. This one is good. So we're gonna go ahead and turn this one off. And normally these valves are a little easier to turn off, but okay. You don't want to over tighten these because they snap pretty easily. Okay, so we're gonna let that build up and let the pressure build in the tank, and we'll go on to the next zone, and that one should be the heads for the front yard. So let the tank pressure build all the way up, and I'm sitting still a little lower, 60 psi on the output. Tank is stopped filling. I'll go to the second valve and turn that on, and let it do its thing. Maybe a couple minutes, should be blown out. This is a little different. You can visually inspect it. It's a little bit easier, so that's kind of nice. You can see that the heads are up, pushing out water, and you can see you start seeing it hiss a little bit. There's water coming out of there. So this one's like the first head from the valve. This one always gets blown out first. This one of these ones is probably the last ones, and then the last one starts getting solid air. You know it's blown out correctly. Okay, now it's been a couple minutes, and you can see that it's just air is coming out. There's no water spurts, none of that. Maybe every once in a while. I mean, you're talking droplets instead of buckets of water. So I'd say that's good to go. So same thing, rinse and repeat, close it, let the tank charge up, and then do the next valve. Okay, here's zone number 3 out of 4. Same process. This is obviously the first head, cleared out first, and gravity. And got the rest of the heads over there. Spitting and spurting. Give it a couple minutes and should be clear. And just like that, we're all done. About half an hour. And if I was cruising, I could do it maybe 20 minutes. But okay, so turn off the compressor, relieve the air, disconnect, obviously. This is important. This is where most people screw up, and they just don't know any better. I just happen to know some people who are really savvy with this kind of stuff and know exactly how this stuff works. So you want to put these ball valves at 3/4 turn. There we go. After you're all done. And the reason is if you don't, there can be water that's trapped inside the ball, and it will crack this every time on the backside. I repair probably over a dozen of these every spring because the guy who blew up the system didn't put it at 3/4 turn. If you put it all the way open, it still has water. Chances more of these guys than these guys, but I've seen these vertical ones break too. 3/4 for some reason allows that water to escape trapped in the sidewalls and the back of the ball valve. So if you 3/4 it, almost all that water is going to come out. So, and then what I also do is I kick these guys open. Same thing, these are a ball valve. So kick these guys 3/4, and that will allow you to get maximum water out of this pipe, and then you won't have to pay a handyman like me or an irrigation sprinkler company or a plumber you know, several $100s to come and repair this. These alone are $100 just the part, plus all the labor and stuff included. You got to cut into this, and it's a whole ordeal. So super important. 3/4 turn always when you winterize. And the other thing you want to do is, most manifold systems for the valves in the ground will have a ball valve or a drain at the end of the system. Sometimes, like when I do systems, I'll put a drain, try to put one on every single manifold, and that just allows more places for the water to escape. Same thing, 3/4 turn, let that sit. Don't have it open all the way, 3/4 turn. It's not too complicated. You do it a couple times and it's a cakewalk. So hope you learned something. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.